Yo, hey, how you doing? We're gonna give it a few and let some people get in here. Hopefully, get a few people in here. Until I'm gonna go warm up my coffee real quick. And get that way. There you go. Unlimited. Turn this down. Really. Move there. We'll give it a few more and see if more people come in. A couple minutes here. Goodness. Australia's losing its mind. These things out. Truly a great speech. What you doing, my dear? Making a video. Starting a video. Just getting a few things out, waiting for some
The Scout?
stuff.
I think that's just went in your garbage can.
Take it out, whatever the hell it
Oh,
was.
yuck. You're on your own, babe.
Be a bit of a pain. All that shit, anyways. Okay. Let's see what the heck was it filling. Yeah. spacer. Right. Well, it's been 5 minutes, so kind of hanging here waiting. We'll get going in a second now. Some other things. Okay, it has 6 of those covers, so that's cool. Put those back in there. All right. So obviously I got this Gen 8 from RedCat Scout. Picked this up a year ago and haven't done too much video on it. And I figured it's a good time to do a 1-year review. Not just for myself. I see a lot of people over the year, and when I was looking at, getting back into crawling last year, and this is the RTR I chose, the Gen 8 Scout. Gen 8 Scout 2. This is version 1. Although it's not the very earliest version. And I say that because it doesn't have the bump on the skid plate. It did have the newer skid plate put on it when I got it. But so after a year of this thing, what do I think about it? And actually, I think it's been a pretty reliable rig, really. I've done quite a bit to it as far as upgrades and hop-ups or add-ons. Not really hop-ups to say, but some. Only a couple were really needed. I've only had a couple of issues that are minor, really, for the most part. Only had a couple pieces actually fail on me where I've had to actually replace them, or would have had to replace them, within a short time from when I did. But overall, it's been a pretty solid RC. I've been very impressed with it for the most part. Out of the gate, yeah, there were some issues. It looks like got some. Well, maybe not. It looked like I might have some wheels on backwards, but I don't think so. Out of the gate, there were some issues with the Gen 8 RedCat. Some people had with the broken axles and a few other things. One of the big early complaints was there was a bump down here on the skid plate, which hung down and seemed to hang up on everything. I don't remember replacing it. I might have last year. I don't recall. I have to go through and look at my purchase history and see if I bought one. But this one does have the non-bump skid, so I'm pretty sure it's the way it was when I got it home. Anywho, she's been around. She's been abused. She's fallen all over the place. But she's taken, pretty good. You can see she's all scruffed up and scratched up and bounced and scraped, and but overall she's been pretty good. It's mostly still left in stock, stud up. I haven't really had to change anything with it. I'm doing something. I'm going to do some things here. That's not right. Got that on backwards, which is part of the steering issue I'm having, but I'm going to help solve that with some things I do have coming. But yeah, this unit has been pretty darn doable as far as it goes. It was a $500 rig, a little bit more than most people would pay for RedCat, and I really debated about it. But the way I thought about it is the Gen 8 non-AXE edition was $300, $299 RTR. Not bad price at all. Really pretty good price, and I would have been happy with that and upgraded from there. But the AXE edition did come with some nice pieces with it. Excuse me. The Reese 422 HD steering servo, the Hobby Wing AXE 2700 kV combo, the Fly Sky radio, the GT5, which is actually a 6-channel radio, the ScoutII body with the open top and the cage, some interior dash, steering oil. I mean, some nice pieces that came into this part. Worst case scenario, I figured if I didn't like it, the rig was that bad, I'd take the electronics out, the radio, and have $200 and $300 in electronics to throw into whatever. I was going to go with a builder's kit, and I actually did. I bought a couple SSD Trail Kings. So I figured if I didn't like it and this thing was that rough or had that many problems, this stuff could go into one of those or another rig. But I have to say, a year later, I haven't really done much with it. So overall, it's been solid. Plastics have been really good. They've taken a beating. There's a little bit of scuffing going on, but I didn't have a problem with a broken axle housing. Some people talked about some problems in the housings up over here. I've been pretty good with this. It's taken some pretty hard hits. It's not exactly too light anymore with the upgrades I've added, the brass. But it's handled all that pretty well. Foams, everybody knows, or anybody who has had one knows, in the cold, these foams are terrible. And you can hear this is vented. This is stock. I didn't vent the tires, so this is I think this is kind of the version 2 AXE. When I got it, it was one of the newest releases of the parts where they've upgraded. They took care of the bump. They vented the wheels. Somebody said they tried different phones, but I didn't get the different phones. These things were like frozen marshmallows. Really, really firm. They had some give, but they were really firm when I first got them. And in March here in Michigan last year, it was cold. It didn't warm up much. So this thing has been, pretty good. But after the 2 months of pretty heavy running, a month and a half or so, these wheels and foams broke down real well. I mean, they're real. It's got a little blockage in it. I should check that probably there's some mud in there blocking the hole. But the foams broke down real well. So they go. These are actually pretty nice tires. More of a trail tire and a off-road tire than I would say a rock tire. But I imagine if you did some cutting and sipping on the center tread, these would actually turn out to be pretty decent rock tires. They got a nice sidewall. Nice, tread bite on the sidewall, so they're not a bad tire. They're pretty decent. Not too hard, but fairly firm. That is the other thing. They are kind of a firmer nub and stuff. They'll last long though. I've rode these things quite hard. Really haven't had a reason because they were mostly trail running and got some rocks that we play on, some water here and there, so it ain't too bad. But overall, I figured it would, I'd swap them out at some point and really haven't had to yet. Although I did just order a new set of rims and tires just to have something a little different, a little more rock ready. But yeah, these rims and tires have been actually pretty decent. Nice, beadlock rings on the inside and out. A little bit more traditional tire. A couple of these caps have broken off the thread part. I just used some E6000 when I had to redo them, pull them off, take a little E6000, pull the old stuff out, put the new in there, stick it down there, let it dry for 20 minutes. It's good to go. But yeah, so this thing has had a bit of running. You can see it's kind of rashed out. Any failures? The only real failures I had is I picked it up one day over here on the driver's side, and this running board, the front driver's side running board, snapped on the mount where it goes up to the plastic mount pieces. And they were getting a little beat up already. So I said, okay, sliders, cheap. I could put a new one on there, stock, buy a set, go from there. But I went ahead and went with some metals. These are the kicks, KYX, for the Gen 8, made for this Gen 8 AXE Edition, basically. So they kind of go with the body. And they've been really nice. The other issue that I had, failure, and this is the only failure, and it didn't fail right away, was the driver's side steering knuckle. The outer cap part with the steering knuckle part on it, around here. This is getting all twisted and bent with the extra torque and the higher strength servo. Getting the tire pinched up, it was twisting and bending the steering knuckle itself quite a bit. eventually it would have broke. Could have bought some used ones, but I took the opportunity and added some front weight. It was kind of top heavy. This body is like 690 grams, 689 grams, something like that, fully decked out. So the body is got some weight. It adds, lifts the COG. So I took that opportunity to, instead of not just do the outer caps, but I did, or actually the other caps are stock. I did the chubs and the portal rear housings, and these are Trio, the Trio black and brass, and that added, of course, some weight up front. I added the Trio inner housings on the back, and again have the stock housing, the stock plastic RedCat housing on the outside. This has been how I've been running it since probably about June, July, August. After a couple March, April, May into June, we ran real heavy almost every weekend and every once or twice a week. When everybody was bored off our ass and not working and getting back into RC, we were running real heavy for a while. So it got a lot of use. So in 3 months, that sounds like it might be bad. And a failure with this knuckles bending, it didn't break. It was just getting all twisted. I even still have it somewhere. In the bag, probably out in the other room. But I decided at that time to take the opportunity and add some lower weight, get some low CG back into it. So I added the Trio brass C-hubs, the inner housings on the front, the rear brass inner housing, portal housings on the rear. I added, just for shits and giggles, add just a little bit more of the Trio shock bottom, shock spring collars, front and rear. Of course, they come in a thing 4, and they have also the adjusters, so brass adjusters. So I added those. And then this is another KYX kicks part, the front. I added that in brass just to put a little bit more weight up. I wanted to keep forward bias on weight. But as far as failure goes, those have been it. And there's, except for one other. So just the driver's side mount here snapped, and then the knuckle was getting bent. That's the only problem I've had with any of the RedCat plastics. Didn't have to add the weight, didn't have to add the upgraded, brass parts. That was a personal choice to add some balancing and biasing to get that a little bit, more front biased and strengthen everything up. This is a pretty torquey little servo to strengthen everything up. So I did that. And again, it was the same thing as rear. Didn't have to do the housings, but after adding the weight in front, it was going to be too much front heavy. So I wanted to make sure I got some weight to the back. So that's why I did the rears. I didn't do the housings yet. I am contemplating the Trio housings, but as of yet, these housings have been solid. I haven't bought them and haven't anticipated needed to. If I do have problems with the housings, I'll probably just grab a set, because no use throwing more weight than you need to. Weight's good, but at a certain point, it can become bad. I did just order the Trio brass diff cover. I'm going to move this KYX to the back, and I'll put the Trio up front when I do that. Stock still on the back. The other failure is kind of under the body. I'll have to show you a little bit, but I can explain it here. Is when you're rolling over, of course, this cage is taking all that weight. When you're hitting in the middle, all the weight's on these two posts. All that weight is transferred down the post here to the bottom where it screws into the Lexan. All that's holding that post and shoring that post up is the Lexan of the body. After a while, that Lexan got weak and it cracked out here underneath the tip a little. Hanging up there. And it cracked out the Lexan, and this is getting weak and falling. So what I did, and I've still got the actual Velcro. That's all been good. It's come loose a little bit, but nothing a little bit E6000 hasn't fixed. I've got lights wired in, so it's a little trickier to do here. So all I did is take a couple pieces of plastic here. Let me get this thing and hold it up. Flip it around a little bit. And cut 2 pieces of plastic that I had and screwed them in from the bottom. So the screw goes through this plastic plate, if you will, then through the Lexan and then into the roll cage. And I put a piece of plastic on the inside. So I sandwiched the Lexan body. So if you've got a new one and it's in good shape and you think you're going to roll over often, take yourself a couple pieces of plastic. You can even 3D print something like this. You know, this is actually the gas thing on the outside. I haven't put any of these on, but I'm going to get into that. Some little piece of plastic, you know, firm plastic to use as a sandwich on the bottom, underside, and then again inside here. It's hard to see, but I've got a piece of plastic underneath, and that will, as you're bouncing around, that will firm up and sure up those connections and help stop that from breaking down in here on your roll cage. The back has been solid. Surprisingly, the way that mounts in, that's actually been really good. It just, they need some kind of support in the Lexan body itself for the center roll cage post. Once that's done, it's been great. This thing's been bending a little bit. I might try to heat it up and push it up a little bit, but other than that, it's all right. So as I said, I got lights on here. So I'm gonna go ahead. The fronts are already undone. Let me go ahead and just peel these other 2 out. And I've got little connectors to be able to undo it all. I got these 2 for the front bumpers and the lights in the bumper. They wire up, and I've got the wired light controller up underneath here. Up out of the way, it sits in the back, up over underneath the driver's side, tucked up there. But this is full scale 1-to-1 light setup. And if you're familiar with the RedCat, it's got 2 reds and a reverse light in the back. It's got 2 lights in the light buckets, as well as, there are markers on the side, but these aren't solid. These are just, stickers. But I built a light kit, and I actually have marker lights, at least for the front blinkers, not for the back. Don't have anything on the back there, but I could do, actually, I got the markers, the lights, they're just tucked in the upper part. I got 2 lights in there, and then a light here and a light here. So it's got full, the reverse lights, brake lights, blinker lights. And what I'd have to do is add a blinker light and come over here to this outside red marker if I wanted to light it up. Just add a light in there. So there's 16, 18 lights on this thing, because I've got the front runner lights with blinker lights in the front bumper, rear running lights, just the white runners or yellow runners. They might even be red runners in the bumper. And then, of course, the light bar on the front. So there's what? 2, 4, 8, 10 lights on the chassis setup. So, and I've got a connector here. I can't remember what that connector's for at the moment, but I think this connects and powers up some of the lighting things. These 2 connectors are for the controller, and so it's all a pretty intricate little thing, and I'll get it all plugged in and wired up for you. But yeah, here we can see a little bit better the plastic pieces here. I just took some extra stuff that I had, cut it, slipped it up. Same thing on the inside here behind the seats. See if we can get a better. There you can see a little bit of it underneath this side here. A little bit of that plastic is just to help support this cage, so when it takes that bounce and the weight, when this thing bounces, I got a bit of extra weight, that's adding more to it, so that's going to crack out. So other than that, I didn't really add a lot of extra stickers to it. I added a couple up front, window stickers, Reese, and when in doubt, throttle out. The intercodes, hobby wing sticker. Added a, what was it? Oh, the hobby wing heck, that was on there too. Added a sticker on the back seat of the driver thing. What's that one say? Well, my other car is a lowrider. It's interesting that they put this on there because this was before they introduced the Impala 64. And no, I don't have an Impala 64, but I thought that was a cool sticker. But other than that, that's the body. Everybody's seen them. That's the only problem I have with the body. So yeah, so my problems have been minimal. Now here's the other issue. Okay, this has happened to a lot. A lot of people go to magnets. I got to clean this up a little bit. All I did, and I'll do it again with this one, is clean this up a little bit. Smear some E6000 on here. Recoat it real well. Clean up the spot on the body part, and I'll re-glue that. Clean it all out and re-E6000 that down, and that lasts 3-4 months before it gets a little bit loose again. So this one's getting a little loose, so I'll clean this one up and do the same thing, put some new E6000 in there. These actually have been pretty decent. As you can see, I haven't really changed much in here. Now as far as stock, it added the lights, and that's been pretty much about all. I went over the add-ons I did here. I did throw this RC four-wheel drive for some scale look. It's bent once or twice. It's not bad. As you can see, I've got this on backwards. That's one of the things I'm going to go ahead and correct. As I said, I got rims and tires coming. Actually, the rims are here. I just ordered the Reese bumper servo mount because I got a servo winch. Real nice, hog servo winch, and I want to run that in here. And it's getting to be a heavy pig, so can't really put that in there. So without a good mount, and Reese seems to be the only one making one that will allow you to still mount a front bumper, with your front bumper set up, and then turn around and use the actual servo winch itself. So that'd be nice. I'll be able to get that in there and control it right off the radio, and go from there. So other upgrades I've done, I added a rear, pintle unit, the lights, and light bar up front, 4-bar light bar up front, the trio brass. As I said, I got the new diff cover coming, and that's going to move to the back. Trio will go up front. Changed out the steering servo horn because the stock one wasn't bad, but wasn't great. But this is one of the things I'm going to go over. Before I go there, there's a couple other things that, before I get into what I want to did for solutions on some other, or going to do for a few solutions. After a year, see some of the things still got some top heaviness. So I'm going to try to get some more lower CGS. So I'm going to go with the brass trio up front. I'll probably end up buying the covers to add some low CG. But at some point, you put too much weight on these plastic axles, you will snap the axle because of the extra weight. So I'm debating on those axle housings just to strengthen those up. It really pretty much rock proof this thing. I mean, it's been pretty solid. So I have thought about doing that. Oh, yes, that's what it was. The other problem, and this is a design issue, and it's a tricky one, so it's not like axle, just really screwed to pooch or anything. And everybody has a little quirk on this one because it's the way the system is set up to work, but it could have been a bit better on this thing. and that is going to be the Panhard setup. I spent a couple hours, 45 minutes the other day, and I put the Bauhaus RC Panhard mount in, which just mounts behind the stock unit. It drops it down a little bit and helps give you a little better front end geometry for the Panhard. Let me grab there. So Panhard geometry, if you're looking at a Panhard bar, one is mounted on the chassis and one is mounted on the axle. And generally, you're going to get it mounted so you're going to have a pivot point in the center. So as the axle extends and drops down, that will arc. This end here is going to arc a little bit. It's going to, and once you get past the center point, it will start going back. So usually you've got it, so you can kind of see how it's, forward and backwards there. Here, that actually still works pretty good. That, creates an arc there. So usually you set your Panhard up to get this as even. The 2 points between your chassis mount and your axle mount, so your Panhard bar is relatively horizontal to the axle and the ground. So as it compresses, it arcs up and then down, and then as it extends, it'll arc back again. So your axle will actually shift a little bit through this movement. It's centered and stationary there, and then it's going to travel towards the side of the chassis mount as it moves off that center. That's a normal setup. The RedCat is set like this, and that's at full compression. And then when it compresses, it just gets more. So your axle actually, as it compresses, you can see it just moves. You can see your bent bar here. This is your Panhard bar here. This bent bar right there. That's your Panhard. And as it compresses, the axle shifts. It actually gets pushed this way because your arc is all one direction. It doesn't go past center to arc the other way. And there's only a couple things that you can do to fix that. And one is to, again, get these things so when this axle is even at ride height, not full extension, not full compression, but halfway at ride height, these 2 points of mount are even. That's horizontal, but they're still, like this, like this on it. So all that arc is, one direction as opposed to like this. So there's a couple possibilities that you can do. This axle side mount has to get raised up, and as Bauhaus did, the chassis side needs to get lowered, and then you're going to need a hell of a bend, almost a U-boat type, some type of bend in your Panhard bar that clears everything as it flows through. So you get that again, that, full arc one direction or the other and not just all one direction. So that, again, that's a design issue, and it would have took a lot for them to do. So they did good. I'm not complaining about what they did. It is what it is, and it, in the way the setup is positioned, the way things are located, They may have been able to do a little bit of this, a little shifting, a little tweaking here and there in positioning, made that a little bit easier. Maybe mounted this 3-link upper link in a little lower position, allowing them a little more open area on top of that pumpkin and axle area to work that Panhard bar into a more level position. So this isn't bad, but it's by far not optimal. The Bauhaus RC improves it a little bit, but it is a little bit. Oh yeah, the other thing I did, the metal link ends. That's the other thing I did. Those also are trio, the aluminum. I didn't do the brass on those. I did the aluminum. I don't think they had brass available at the time when I bought this stuff. I think it was just the aluminum link mounts. So, which gives you the axle side Panhard bar. Would have been nice if they took that and actually lengthened it, their Panhard bar, whoever's making Panhard link mounts, extend that. Geez, if that were to go up 5 millimeters, be 5 millimeters higher, it would improve the geometry there, but you'd probably end up having to rebend your Panhard bar a little bit, which may be a trick, or get a different Panhard bar that's bent properly. So there's some geometry and some tweaking that has to be done there in that Panhard setup. That is the biggest design quirk I've seen. I don't want to call it a flaw, because it's a Panhard system. That's how they work. There's no getting around the function of it. But there are ways to optimize it for its best function. And they could have went a little farther with that, but that would have actually probably spent more time R&D and definitely more cost in doing, because of the complicated nature of finishing that up, and would have introduced some other problems along the line. Weak plastic on those mounts getting weak and bending because they're too tall and not big enough, and that kind of stuff. So overall, I'm really quite happy with it. That's the biggest quirk. Other than that, I know people have had plastic issues. Look, it's RC, people. You're going to have broken plastics. It happens. You don't even have new cars without broken plastics, because plastic is plastic and it breaks easier than metal and steel in most cases. Not always, but most cases. And let's face it, in the last 30 years, plastics technology has really improved. And I suspect in the next 30 years, now that hemp is being created and getting into industrial markets, I think when we see hemp quality plastic graphene and graphenes and plastics with hemp fibers coming into them, we're going to see the strength and the abilities of what can be done with this plastic increase huge. It's going to be simply a whole nother revolution on top of the revolution of what we got already. Because hemp cellulose is some amazing cellulose to work with. But that's a whole different topic for a whole different video. So this thing hasn't been that bad. A couple little plastic failures, but nothing major. I've been quite impressed with how little I've had problems with it. When I was around when RedCat first come out in 2007, 2006 time frame, they tackled a hard market in the United States, and that's going to be the large scale gasser market, which really wasn't even a market in America. We're not like Europe, where large scale RC, big gas fist scale units that are 3 foot long and 40 pounds are a big thing. So when RedCat came out, they came out into that market. I applaud them, and applauded them back then for attempting to break into a raw market, number one, with a new company, not the greatest known history. They were a new company. Nobody really knew who they were. Mostly, a lot of people shied at them as being a Chinese cheap junk knockoff company, which they actually weren't. They were making their own designs. Yeah, they borrowed a little bit here and a little bit there, and then put it together and made them work. But there's only so many ways to make a diff. There's only so many ways to make a steering setup. There's only so many ways to lay out a chassis. So some things are going to be similar or almost identical just because of that. So, but they weren't knocking anybody else's stuff out. They were making their own stuff with a mismatch of parts that other people have used in the past and we're still currently using at the time. So I never seen RedCat as a cheap China knockoff company. They were based out of America and Arizona. So like all companies, they're sourcing most everything out of China because, well, that's where everything went in the last, well, in our lifetimes. I just turned 55. So by the time I got out of school, a lot of our stuff was headed over to China and manufacturing already. No thanks to our greedy ass, dumb, ungrateful politicians. So, made in China, made in Taiwan, sure, probably. Nonetheless, they did a good job. It's, you know, the licensed ScoutII body looks killer. I applaud RedCat. You know, they broke into a market that was hard for known companies, HPI, Traxxas. You know, none of these companies try to get into that big, large scale market because it wasn't really big here in the United States like it was in Europe. But RedCat did. That's where they opened up the door for their RC company. And so, you know, that's respectable. And again, they were, you know, doing their own thing. They weren't just like Integy, buying a part, putting it in the copy machine and pushing, you know, copy paste on the machines and CNC and everything else. Well, you know, I'm guilty of buying cheap Chinese knockoff stuff. I got some coming, got some behind me to open up yet. But if that's how you buy, you don't buy it from a company that's making things, innovating, creating new stuff like RedCat, like HPI. The HPI Baja is what got me back into RC after 20 years of being out, you know, in my younger days back in 2007, right as RedCat was coming out with their large scale stuff. For me, quality guy. I didn't buy any RedCat. I knew people who actually, a couple of people who worked there through the Baja, HPI Baja forum. And for those of you who don't know, I used to go by HPI Baja, or, you know, Timmy's 5B. Timmy's HPI Baja 5B or Timmy's 5B on the HPI Baja forum, HPF Baja, HPF, which is HPI Baja forum. Anyways, so I talked a lot about the RedCat, and almost always defended it, even though I didn't own any. It had problems. There was quality control problems. You're going to find that with any new rig. You're going to find that with any new company, especially in this kind of stuff. So they did a damn good job. They stuck to it. They got through a very hard market and survived because here they were able to continue out of the fifth scale, large scale gasser market and come into the other market, crawlers, bashers, the Wendigo, a little bit of rock racer. Quality still has to get better, but after a year of this thing, they're not that much worse than anybody else, if at all. I'm going to say they're probably just as good as anybody else. And I like how they're kind of doing some things instead of just getting a hold of the Axe, or I'm sorry, Hobby Wing, and saying, okay, make us a cheap copy of something and put, you know, we can put RedCat name on it, which they are doing with the Hexfly stuff in some respects. Some of that stuff's made for them by Hexfly, but Hexfly is just a cheap, inexpensive Chinese electronics company, I guess. But anyways, maybe Hobby Wing makes flex size stuff. I don't know. There's good possibility there. But at any rate, they just went with the Hobby Wing. They just got a hold of Reese and said, let's make a deal and let's use your servo, your brand in our rig, and, you know, offer something out of the box, higher quality in an RTR version to our customers. And RedCat was one of the first companies to do such a thing. where they're actually not rebranding. They're just putting the hobby wing in and they're putting the reefs in, and that's kind of a cool thing. Um, they've been doing that with a few things. They're in 64 has some reef servos and some hobby wing gear in it. I think they're using the 1080. The new Marksman has the 1080 waterproof and a Holmes hobby motor with crawl master, I think it is. Might be a trail master, but they're just leaving the branded Holmes hobby, buying the Holmes hobby motor and putting them in as a Holmes hobby motor. So that's kind of cool. The GTR Fly Sky radio. Sure, not a Futaba, it's not a Spectrum, which I care less. I'm not a fan of Spectrum electronics. But Fly Sky's damn good radio. It works pretty well. So overall, I've been very impressed and pleased with the quality of this. They've done a really nice job with layout. I like the front motor design. It would have been nice to see them do something to get this motor lower, help drop that COG, because it does ride when you got your spur and tranny down here and the motor sits above that. It would have been nice to see them do a little smooching moving, but they couldn't do too much because there's only what, 1/4 inch, 7 millimeters below the motor. So they could have shifted sideways a little bit, got it a little bit farther this way maybe, and created it a little lower in there, but not too much. So they overall, I think they did a really pretty decent job. Plastics have been pretty quality. Everything's held up. The only drivetrain issue I've had is I got one of I think the front or rear wheels, both of them were kind of pinched in, and I spit out the half shaft. So I do have, and it weakened it a little bit. It popped it off, and it hasn't popped back off yet. I suspect it's going to. Anybody knows once you start splitting the plastic half shafts and they start popping off the balls, the swivel balls, and the U joints, they start getting weak and they'll continue to pop off. A lot of people put a zip strip on it. I'm just buying the metal half shaft to lock up in there to take care of that problem. Just ordered it, so it'll be here by the end of the week with some other things. But overall, this has been a nice platform. Reason I chose the Axe over the non-Axe edition, as I said earlier, if this was a turd, if it had more problems than I was willing to throw money at to fix, I could have took these electronics out, put them in anything else, and had a quality package electronics to put into any other rig that I had. With that, I'm glad I didn't have to. I've had this thing not totally submerged, but I've had water well up to the motor and not quite over the motor, but damn near. So, in our area, we got some areas that get kind of wet. I'm building a river flowing river setup that you'll be able to river cross 50, 40 feet, something like that, in a way. So, got some cool stuff there. But yeah, that's been a decent setup. So, what will do. So yeah, there's a couple quirks, but overall, I can see why a lot of people are liking the RedCat stuff. Their quality has improved greatly. Their plastics quality has come up. I worked on some RedCat. Some friends of mine had back in the day. Some of their plastics were pretty brittle, especially on the 5th scale stuff. Decent. Could have been better. Here we are 10 years later. Really decent is better. So kudos to RedCat. You guys have stuck to it. The lowrider. I mean, who in the hell would have anticipated a lowrider? I know Jeffrey's been doing it, and it's been kind of a club scene, underground cult classic, if you will, in the RC world. Same thing as crawlers were up until 2008 in Hobbywing, Jesus. Axial released the AX10 Scorpion. Crawler at that point was Cult World. So I think it's cool you guys did the lowrider. I'm not a lowrider guy, but I've always loved them ever since, Cheech and Chong. Who can forget, you know? No rider is a little lower. So yeah, who can forget that stuff? But you guys did a great job with this thing. You know, kudos on it. Excellent work on the RedCat platform, improving, keeping, growing and innovating. That's what being RC is about. Because if you buy nothing but the Chinese, Chinquish or Chinese SSD stuff, Integy, there's no innovation there, ladies and gentlemen. It is nice to see some of these companies, Chinese companies, are making some innovative parts. Like these rims, these are 2.2s for my Rift. These are a Chinquish, if you will. They look like a Vanquish, but Vanquish don't quite have that look to it. But like a lot of these companies making rims, they're doing all sorts of designs. It's not just the methods or not just the versions that SSDs put up. They've got versions similar to that, but then they've got their own line. So you can call that innovation, if you will. Different looks, but the design is still a Vanquish. And if you bought nothing but cheap stuff, then Vanquish is going to go out of business and not be there to design new stuff for a Chinese company to buy and hit copy copy paste, cut, copy and paste and repeat. So that's why it's important to buy from companies that are innovating, that are designing. That's why Traxxas has been around for 40 years. That's why Losi's been around for 30 years. RedCat's now been around for 12 years because they're not, cut, copy, paste. They are actually innovating. They're designing. They're listening to their customers. They're improving. These other companies like Integy and things like that, they don't do that. I've known in the Baja world, I knew 5 small companies that basically were bought out, if you will, by Integy or HPI and King Motors is a perfect example. The company that made the Baja for HPI is the same company that made the King Motors version. They changed some stuff. Not everything was a direct fit and copy, but at $400, half the cost of what the HPI Baja was, everybody started buying the King Motors ones. And now where's HPI today? Here we are in 2021, 13 years after the massive success of what HPI should have really propelled them into the next level. They were already a successful company, and they're almost out of business. They're just now starting to re-release some of their old 12-year-old, HPI Flux, Savage Flux stuff. So don't fool yourself in thinking you're saving money by buying Chinese knockoff stuff. Yes, you are saving some pennies, but you're also putting the company that innovated the stuff that Chinese company copied and sold to you for half the cost out of business. And who are they going to steal from and copy if HPI is gone, or if RedCat's gone, or if Axial's gone, or if Vanquish is gone? So innovation is a part of those costs, because Integy isn't putting money into innovation. They're not spending thousands, tens of thousands, $100,000s of dollars on prospective possibilities of a platform that will sell well, like the AXE is doing, or the RedCat Gen8 platform is doing compared to their earlier releases, which had some other issues. Some of those, still new company issues and trying to save price and keep the cost down stuff that's going to come across. So, yeah, the Chinquish stuff, the, Chinese knockoff stuff, it's cheap. It works, usually pretty decently. But when the company they copied is out of business and no longer making new innovative parts, what you going to buy then? So that's that rant. So with that said, let's see some of this cheap Chinese stuff I got today from the Amazon. I know it's a kind of a bitch. We're kind of over the barrel. You either go without, or you spend ungodly amounts of money developing yourself. And this is for my Trail King rig. It's a winch controller. I got one hooked up long and burn it up. And that goes on the Trail King. This little package is some shackles, toe shackles. Had a couple break on here, so I ordered a couple more. Yeah, probably just we'll pop those up. But ordered a new front bumper, which is close to this. That's a little bit higher brush bar. It's got a fair lead winch in it, so I can put the winch through and everything else that way. So that's those. Now, there ain't too many companies, Axle aren't making those things in metal. Neither are like Losi or any of those companies. And these are for the RedCat here. And as I was talking about the chain leash or whatever else, these are some KXYs. Black and red rims, 1.9s, and I ordered tires, but they won't be here for a little bit. They're actually coming over on slow boat from China for the ones that I wanted. So I'm going to end up putting these on the back. And because some of the stuff on this thing is red already, and it's RedCat, I'm going to go with red and black accents, and that's kind of what the Scout body is, and the international symbols are on that, International Harbor things. So yeah, some more kicks items. Got a couple on this thing, and trying not to cross too much. So I've got the KYX brass cover, the KYX sliders, and now the KYX rims. And these are getting a set actually Rock Beast, and going to be, this is the problem because nobody's got them in stock, but a Chinese knockoff Rock Beast, because they're a nice tire, but you can't find them. So I figured, well, for the cost, I'll buy these Chinese until I can buy some real Rock Beast. But anywho, those are a few parts coming. Now, like I said, I got the Reefs bumper servo mount for the internal winch servo, which will go in. That'll be here at the end of the week. I got that coming. The half shaft for the divorce transfer case, metal one, got that coming. Front bumper. Got rock lights that I'm going to mount into the wells area for both my rigs. Actually, I got 3 sets. I'm going to put one on the Rift too, just to have some lights underneath for crawling at night. A few other pieces on the way to throw onto this besides new rims and tires, just to add a few more things. So I'll probably end up adding a little bit more, maybe the brass weights to the brass covers, just to turn around and help add a little bit more of that low center of gravity, counteract the weight. I went through the shocks yesterday. I thought they were leaking, but they're not actually. They're not. Just had to kind of readjust them, and everything's actually pretty darn good. So I'm going to do a few of the things I want to do here. I need to do here actually. Put this over here for now. And let's see, where are my other? Did something with those. Looking for my other smaller I left them there. Allen wrenches here. Maybe that's it. I guess that's them. Okay, because I got to redo this thing a little bit. So let me take this off here. And I'm going to change this Ranchero piece out. We got a few other things. There's such an angle, you know, such a darn angle, you know, when it's extended out. So I picked up the SSD Trail King for the Trail King unit, or the Axial SDX102 steering links, which has the S-curved drag bar. So I'm going to pop that in there when that gets here end of the week. And then I actually have this Trio Servo Saver, which I actually picked up for my Rift. It's 25 tooth. Don't really need to use the Servo Saver, but what I'm going to end up doing, because it gives us so much depth here over the stock servo, is going to kick that off, and then I'll lock the saver part right down. I picked this up to run on the Rift, but I ended up getting the Servo AF drag saver and then the K&K, so I really don't need it. I bought it to do an option because other people are doing it, but I figured, what the hell, I'm going to use this instead on this. Give me some depth off my servo to drop this down and kind of square this out. And once I get the S-curve one, it will really help, you know, square up and, you know, improve the steering. But what I'm going to do now is spin this sucker around 180 degrees. I'll wait till I get that SSD stuff to put that on there, because this thing is kind of in the wrong area. So when I put it back together, I didn't realize I put it back together backwards, basically. So I got a new front bumper, new rims, new tires, nice foams in those coming with those tires. They're a nice memory foam. I've got a couple other ones if I need. So yeah, new rims, new tires coming. It's a smaller one. The half shaft, the Reese bumpers, winch mount, because I need that. Okay. Okay. And put this back in here. Have it in the first hole to increase torque. I don't need all that throw, so for now I'll put it back in. Move it this way. That squares us up a bit better. Okay, power up for a quick second. It's not going to do much because it's no radio on. Grab it, turn it on just to make sure it's there. Okay, that's on, and model name EPAs, endpoint 1. Turn it back up to 100. Turn that back down to 100. Okay. Sub trim, steering, back down to 0. Throttle, auxiliary. Okay. Go to my trim. Okay, now pull this back up. Okay. Flip you over real quick. Oh, that ain't gonna work like that. At least not with that one. It's gonna have to be like that. Okay. It's gonna have to sit out like that. It's the axle the other way. Okay. This in. Probably should cut that off and give me just a nice new clean end on this thing. Okay. Come on. This puppy lock back in. I was hoping I'd be able to make that work better, but lock that up pretty good. Now we'll double check our EPAs. Okay. Subtrim. What? And the dishwasher clean. On 16 before, so I'll leave it there. Okay. EPA steering. I'm very happy on the bumping. Okay. Does that pretty well. Alright. Get all my peel this up, so you have to clean that up. So you do what I gotta do. Where's my other connector? Right here. That one goes here. This one goes here. Not sure if I'm going to do an on-off on this or not. I might. Oh, that's right, those back ones are blue. Alright, so light setup. Well, as you can tell, we got the 4 runners for the bars. Why ain't that one working? Gotta burn out. I'll have to check that headlight out. Let's see. More crap. Hello. Oh, good. Oh, no. Final attempt. Press 1 and hold for federal case against me. This should be interesting. I don't know, Social Security Administration. You called me.
Well, I never told you the line has been directly connected to me.
Well, how in tarnation did that happen? How in tarnation did that happen? How did I connect to you? I didn't call. My phone rang, and there you are.
Well, let me go ahead and check it out. What exactly happening here?
Well, what'd you call me about there, sunshine? Hello? Oh, bummer. They hung up. All right, so anyways, I've got a light out. I've got a burnout. Let's figure that out. So yeah, supposed to have the both front lights, and then when you turn, oop, looks like I got them plugged in backwards because they're blinking backwards somehow or another. I'm gonna have to change that around. But yeah, so I got blinkers front. You gotta get them fixed, like I said, and rear. In the rear, you got blue running lights and then red running lights and a blinker. That's the right blinker too. So it's only the front. Somehow I got those messed up. There's the other blinker. And then, of course, here, let me pick her up a little bit. When you go running, ooh, when you drive in the front, the second light comes on, but my one light's going out. So you get like a bright light when you're on full, and then on the back, of course, when you're driving, you get nothing. But your blinkers, obviously. But you do get backup light and brake light. So I do got to redo the front. Right. Wrong side blinking, yes. Somehow or another, I got my fronts mixed up. That's no big deal. I can spin that around. But yeah, so full lights. Get the servo or the servo winch mounted. That will be a good one to go. New rims and tires. New half shaft. Add a little bit more weight. Sooner or later, I'll probably end up, like I said, grabbing the outer covers just to add a little bit of weight there. Or at least the metal aluminum ones add a little bit more than plastic, but not much. SSD link on that. Shut that off. Shut that off. Fuel off here. But yeah, this thing has been pretty much a decent running rig with damn near no issues at all. I think that's what those are. And this is my somehow or another. I mix those up. I'll have to double check in that. But yeah, overall, this thing has been a really good crawler. So anybody out there who's getting in or looking for a different unit, don't discount the RedCat, the Gen 8 setups. They are actually quite good. I've been beating on this for better than a year now and really not had many major problems at all. You know, broken slider, plastic, no big deal. You know, tweaked up knuckle, maybe a problem. Not gonna see it right, but you until it broke, you could use it. Overall, nice piece of RC. They did a really good job. I've got no problem adding to it, throwing a little bit extra money at it, improving its quality because it is pretty good. Say it does have a high COG, and a little bit respect, and then this body's pretty heavy, and that adds to it. Add the other things that don't get any better. So adding some of that brass, dropping that COG down, that'll make a difference. course, when I get these rims and get the tires on those, that will help. Add a little bit more lower weight, although it's rotational mass weight, it's still going to be lower than everything else, and help drop that COG a little bit farther. But yeah, this has been a great unit. Again, kudos to RedCat. You guys have done a good job with this rig. Let me kind of look through my stuff here and see what else I may have forgot. Let's just see what I do have coming here. That's the half shaft. That should be here Friday, along with this stuff. Oh, yeah, I got new hub covers because they're getting bad. The servo winch mount for the Reese mount, and then the steering link. That's that. I have the eBay. Ooh. Come on. Let's see here. Bumper and climbing lights. And then, of course, I got those link mounts and the trio diff cover. Oh, I got some other pieces. Bound house. Yep, that's it. So those are things that are on the way that'll help take this thing up another notch. But yeah, this has been a really solid unit. Never actually put the cover on it, the canvas lid. I may do that just for shits and giggles. Got some 3D printed stuff. That's this other part here. Door handles. There's windshield wipers I got to get out. So I'm going to get these 3D printed things. I got black nylon to print now. Front skid. A lot of people are getting these in stainless, and I looked at them. They look pretty nice in stainless. Add again some of that dead low weight. But my problem that I'm going to have, that I'm seeing, is these holes are going to get hooked into every angle, and so I'm going to redo something or find another one that's just solid. I've seen the Club 5 stuff. It says 4x4 or AXE, or it has the holes like these. I'm going to make one that's just solid. I think that's the only way to do it. These other pieces, you know, window latch for the back. Of course, I don't need it on this because this doesn't have that window on it. But I got the button for the thing, gas cap, these kind of things I'm going to do. Door handles, I'll replace those, print the windshield wipers, get those on there. Do some of that stuff to actually, you know, improve the detail scale, make it my own, as RedCat says. So yeah, that's about it. I'm going to go ahead and kill it off here. We've been about an hour and a half. Wanted to kind of go through this thing a little bit because I really haven't spent any time on it and any vids, and I've been very impressed with it. So these guys, RedCat, you've really come a long way since 2006, 2008, when you broke the market, broke into the market there in large scale. You've done well. You've improved your designs, you've improved your abilities, improved your quality. Nothing but good love coming, man. So you guys have done a great job. So appreciate you allowing me to get something that I've always wanted, but was never gonna thought I'd get, which was a cool Scout body. On a really decent platform. You know, I didn't have to buy the Scout just to put it on something else. I could buy it on the platform it was supposed to be on. I'm happy with it. So thanks a lot, everybody. Take your time, hit that share, that like button, subscribe. If you subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and make sure you choose all notifications, because if you're not getting them all, you're not getting hardly any of them. And that's on all channels. So thanks a lot. You folks have a great day. Thanks for hanging out.